Show Me the Body has been a project for a pretty long time. Corpus has been like, you know, your collective for a while. Is that something that you think about? Is that something that you talk to your pals and your collaborators with about? Like, where it's like, what are we doing here? You know, because at some point you got to ask your question, like, what are we doing here?
I think we like, especially with Corpus, like we do what we do with our community on a needs basis. So luckily, like, we don't really have to ask ourselves, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Because you've been doing it enough time, you just kind of, it's like an intuitive thing.
I mean, it's like, it's what we're committed to doing. You know what I mean? We've been on that for a long time, and dealing with like organization on a horizontal anarchic level is like what we've been doing for a long time. You know what I mean? So, and we continue to do so. But sometimes, you know, when I do go to, I'm now 32.
Yeah.
When I go to shows now, I'm like, oh man, I am the unk. Like, if I show up, it is the unction. Like, you know what I mean? And like,
but do you remember going to, I mean, I still do it now. And actually in London, you know, I grew up in the suburbs, live in the city now, but I still see people that I would sort of recognize when I was 15. I still see them now. And, you know, I look up to them and I chat with them and I ask them things, you know what I mean? And it's like, there is that, it's a two-way street. It's a two-way communication street.
Yeah. I mean, like, even like my buddy Chai, like I met him and I remember meeting him when I was probably like 15 or 16. I was like, dang, that motherfucker old.
And he was like 25.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, that motherfucker's still old. He's still around. You know what I mean? But no, I mean, it's like where we've established, you know, our second family. You know what I mean? It's like through music, through shows, through the gang. Yeah. That like chosen family, you know what I mean, has become like very, very real. Yeah. And I'm very thankful and proud of it.
There's a lot of work that goes into it. Like, you know, the show is called 101 Part-Time Jobs. And it did start off like, oh, wouldn't it be funny to speak to people in bands about all the, you know, short-lived, precarious side hustles they do between tour. And then like after a few years, I'm like, nah, it's like, what this conversation is actually about a philosophy of life. It's about knowing that what you do and what you think about becomes who you are. So make it count.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, hopefully.
So what does that mean for you? Like, there's so much work that goes in behind putting on a show. Like one show, there's so much work. Putting on a tour, a whole different kettle of fish. Like when you think about like your remit, like what you're into, what you're interested in. I like the way that you say horizontal anarchy, in the way that kind of, do you mean everyone's kind of moving side to side? Well, like people do in the room as well.
Yeah. Side to side.
Side to side.
Yeah, side to side. Yeah, man. I mean, I guess what I mean is like there's no masters in Corpus, you know what I mean? Like we're a crew that we're all together, you know what I mean? There's no president of our organization, you know what I mean?
And that must take a little while to figure out, right? And you're always figuring it out?
I think it was like a natural thing. It was like a really natural thing. I mean, because like, you know, it used to just be like a crew, just like going to shows, writing graffiti and fighting. And then like when Asha joined us, Asha, our manager, and also the mother of my child, was like, you know, you guys could do a lot of the things that you talk about in your music if you want, and not just be hooligans, not just be a bunch of skinhead idiots. You could also do things like you talk about doing. And so we were like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? I think we never had nobody around us that was like smart enough to acknowledge that and say that to us and convince us to do things like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, now that's like, you know, that's like half the whole thing is like doing these community initiatives and organizing ourselves to do so.
And that video that just came out is like, that was filmed at the self-defense classes that are put on in the park. And is that part of what you're talking about? Like,
absolutely. Yeah. So even the self-defense classes, like what I mean by like horizontals, like there's no master teacher there. Me and Keith are there to guide folks through fundamentals who have never who have never boxed before, have never hit pads. So we're there to make sure that everybody is like moving their feet correctly and is like throwing punches safely, you know what I mean? And make sure they're not hurting themselves or anyone else, you know? But beyond that, it's everybody working and training together. You know what I mean? That's the point. The point is not to like, for me and Keith to like pretend like we're like good at boxing, you know what I mean? Like the point is like to make sure that if anybody is in a situation, they can protect themselves and their friends.
So on day one in the first class, I'm coming to you. I'm like, look, I want to learn to protect
We're
myself.
going to focus on footwork. We're going to go back and forth, make sure your jab is at the same time as your front foot.
Yeah.
So that's what we would do if you show up the first day and don't know shit.
And now is the time to learn that stuff, right? I mean, in the UK, a lot of far right is coming out the woodwork.
I think also like there's like a lot of active clubs throughout Europe, and a lot of them are far right active clubs, you know, and a lot of firms are geared toward like far right ideologies. Even in America, you know, like the people who train firearms usually are not like leftist folks, you know, so it's very important to do that. You know, it's very important to train in firearms, to train in street defense as well, because the other side is harder work. You know what I mean? And so I think people who are leftists often don't want to consider themselves militant, and I would urge you to do so, especially if you are an anti-fascist leftist person. To become disciplined and become militant is a good thing.
Is that because you get more done?
You'll definitely get more done, and you'll also be prepared when things pop off, when the action kicks off. You know what I mean? It won't all just be running around in a frenzy. You'll know what to do. Yeah.
Have you seen in the last few years become a bit more real? I suppose there's that niche pockets, like you say, kind of like being young and being violent.
Yep.
But then actually when something like widespread mainstream violence is coming up, it does become a more of like an everybody thing.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, you know, and I would also urge people to think about how they can contribute. Everybody can contribute in different ways. These are just ways that I know that I can contribute, but the diversity of tactics is paramount. You know what I mean? So I think anything that anyone can do and spend their time organizing themselves and their friends to do, whether it's like cooking meals or training, like, you know, it's that's all good work. You know, as far as I'm concerned.
Radical love compels me to fight.
Yes, sir.
That's it. It comes from a place of love. Your managers, your partner, mother of your child, you know, your friends, you love your friends.
Yeah.
You know, someone said on this show the other day, it was Kevin Drew from Broken Social Scene. He was like, today, friendship is a protest. I'm like, damn, it's fucking true. You know, telling your pals how you feel and what you're upset about, what you're excited about.
And I would say even a step further is to imagine love across worlds. So even though I'm not directly a part of the trans community, we have trans folks who are our friends, who are even part of Corpus. Sometimes they train with us, and we love them and are dedicated to their protection and survival. Even as like I got into on our last tour, me and my brother, who's gone now, got jumped by security for speaking about anti-Zionism on stage and saying "fuck the state of Israel." And so in that way, we are joining a fight that is thousands of miles away from us. You know what I mean? But we are imagining love for those people who are going with it, and we are joining them in solidarity in our fight.
And the more we know about it, and just teaching people about it, people learning about it. You know, I've learned more about the Israel-Palestine, you know, the plight of the Palestinians. We've all learned, you know, the average person on the street has learned way more about it in the last few years than ever before. And the more people that know the terror there, you know, there's obviously more of us than them. There's so much power in people learning and hearing and sharing what's actually happening there.
People who are engaging in hateful ideologies are ultimately confused. You know what I mean? They're ultimately distraught, very hurt and confused individuals. You know what I mean? Who are imagining a populist movement, and they've joined the wrong one. And it's funny too, because like Mad Mark, I don't know if you know MAD booking. He like invented American hardcore bands going to Europe. Awesome Berlin guy. Mad Mark, OG, shout out. And he was like, you know, fighting Nazis and fucking braining Nazis with your boot is a good thing, But he was like, when I saw Crass as a kid, Crass would hand out flyers that said, hey, before you beat up those kids, before you beat up the boneheads, talk to them 1st. You know what I mean? Try to talk to them first.
I love the way that you're putting on shows for people that are free. You know, that show that happened in Southwark Park. Yeah. I missed it. I was at the theatre with my mum, talking about love, having a great time with my mum. But I went to the one in Brixton about 5 years ago at the Brixton Village.
Oh, yeah.
That was wicked. You can see when you go to those things, they cost money to put on, but obviously people aren't paying for a ticket. So it's the risk on you. You're taking the risk. You or the promoter, maybe both of you, are taking the risk to do it. How important is it to you to do stuff like that? Because ultimately, like being a band and touring around, Mad Mark, you know, it's a business, right? It's like, well, you need to cover your overheads. Like it's culture, but it's also a business. So where's your philosophy on like making stuff happen, being an inclusive and accessible band, whilst also, you know, making sure that you don't go home with holes in your pockets?
Playing, like doing like free shows like that is like, it's just the best. You know what I mean? Because it's also like how we cut our teeth as kids is like playing weird free shows, stuff like that. You know, it's where you go to as a kid. You know what I mean? I now, as a father, I wheel my daughter in the stroller to the free show in the park. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So you know, it's just part of like, I think it's just like part of the culture. You know what I mean? And so I guess that's the reason why that always remains important, just to like, to always, to remember that is part of the culture. You know,
and it can happen. Right. I mean, like sound systems and free parties have been a thing here for a long time.
Absolutely.
And there's a feeling that you get from a sound system in a park that you don't get in any fucking, you know, corporate venue.
Yeah, and it also, like you're saying, like there's like semi risk involved in doing it. You know what I mean? Like, like, you know, you have, especially in a place like far from home, like you have to rely on the homies. Like our homie Ben Broom put that show on along with Popular Front. You know what I mean? So it takes hard work and friends to do something like that. The show at Brixton Market, shout out Wooloo, the homie Miles from Wooloo made that happen. You know what I mean? So it takes people who are already part of that community for us to be able to be there, and we're very proud of that. You know what I mean? We're not just like walking in, don't know nobody from Adam. You know what I mean? We know these folks, and they are bringing us to these places, and we are proud to know them, and they're proud to have us there.
You need to have a tour guide, right? You need to have someone show you around. I don't know how you got power in Southwark Park. I lived near there. I cycle around there all the time. I'm like, where the fuck did they get power from? Generator? Fuel generator? Gas
Fuel generator, gas.
Old
Got
school.
it, petrol, baby.
You're in New York. You're still living in New York. You're a New York guy.
Yes, sir. Born and raised.
Your dad is a big part of your life. He's around?
Yes.
Was he a lawyer to help people get in housing?
Yeah, he was an tenants rights lawyer for a long time.
Yeah.
And like community organizer down there. Yeah.
So he must have taught you quite a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, his outlook and how he raised me was like, you know, a lot, like being around people and like keeping community and like making sure that that everyone is safe and is accounted for, and the community is taken care of, you know. And like, you know, like when I was younger, like I thought my daddy was a drug dealer because he would take me. We like went to Queensbridge. He knew everybody, and then I realized the first time that he went out there as a lawyer, he got beat up and robbed. You know what I mean? And so then he had to know everybody in the block. You know what I mean? So, but I was like, why does my daddy like know all of these people? You know what I mean? But it's because my daddy might be like a white dude, you know what I mean, from a different neighborhood, but they were like, oh, this dude gives a shit about the city, you know, so he earned his respect.
And he's taking risks to do good.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
anything worth doing is hard to do. And there's nothing that's worth doing that is going to be easy.
That must be, you know, learning that at a young age, seeing your dad do that, you know, that's going to have a profound impact on your philosophy, on the way that you think about life and like the projects that you throw yourself into. What was the first projects that you did? Was there a project before Corpus, Show Me the Body, that, I mean, I'm not going to say names if there's like, you know, old YouTube videos that you don't want people to see. But I mean, did you have...
Dude, well before YouTube, homie. I mean, just like terrible bands, you know what I mean? Like nothing like worth mentioning, just like bad bands, but a lot of fun.
But you learn how to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who were you looking up to at that time? Who were your kind of? I mean, I just watched that Harley Flanagan documentary.
Oh, sure.
And Cro-Mags I always enjoyed, them from a distance, but learning about his story, and I kind of knew parts of the story, but watching that documentary that's free on YouTube, I'm like, oh damn, there's
I mean, when I was younger, the bands that were like really fucking getting it, was like Dawn of Humans. Hank Wood just put out Go Home, which was like so hard. And like saw Crazy Spirit when I was younger too.
Okay. I don't know any of them.
There you go.
Need to get on it.
Yeah, these are great New York bands. Dawn of Humans was like my favorite band to go see when I was younger.
And what was it like? What were those shows like? Violent?
Yeah, some of them violent. I mean, that they were like really like hardcore punk shows, so they're like a little bit less violent. But like when I would go see like a show like Castle Heights, which is a venue that's not around anymore, like I would like beat down shows, like spend a lot of the time hiding, like either fighting or hiding. Like I was like a small dude and there's like huge motherfuckers like dancing, you know what I mean? But trying to remember more names. But also just hanging out at ABC No Rio really gave me like the context of like what punk rock is. You know what I mean? The Lower East Side and Rivington Street.
ABC No Rio was like a DIY.
It was a DIY venue that also previously a squat that was like a co-op, and they had a zine library there.
Yeah.
They had a dark room that you could gain access to. They had a screen printing facility.
Yeah, cool.
And all you had to do to book shows there was you had to show up to the bookers meeting like 3 times. And then after the 3rd time, you could also book a show there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like really cool. And me and my buddy would just go there on Saturdays and like hang out for like the hardcore matinee.
Yeah.
And I saw like so many bands go through there, and it was just like super duper inspiring. It just like really changed my world to see all this music and these other folks who were like traveling and playing music. You know what I mean? It was like the first time I saw that shit.
For me, like we had a youth center and it was like local kids bands from different high schools, like a lot of ska punk, and some hardcore. And, I look back on it and I appreciate it more now than I ever did back then. At the time I was like, this is awesome. This is cool. This is my place.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, even more like, fuck, I learned so much there.
In hindsight. And especially, ABC No Rio the building was condemned and the city is rebuilding the building, God willing. I hope everything with that comes to fruition, because it's such a blessed place and the people who continue to run it are so sick. Shout out Diami. But those centers and places, no, they don't last forever.
Yeah.
Which
part of it.
Yes.
In a way.
And so it's easy to like be like, oh man, we're going to that shithole again tonight. But when they're gone, it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna miss that room forever, And only when I'm older do I start to feel that way, and do I realize how fleeting not only time but spaces are. But shout out to like the New York scene right now. I mean, like there's a lot of kids younger than myself who are like breaking into abandoned buildings and throwing shows in the basements and stuff, and there's kids are out getting it. As the city gets more difficult to operate in, kids are finding a way. So just like shout out to the new generation of punks happening and making it happen, getting motion.
It's always inspiring seeing people younger than you like making it work. Power Plant, who you're going on tour with in the States, amazing band. They live up the road from me. Like they do the occasional show locally. They've been touring a lot in Europe, but I think like from what I see, friends of theirs, I'm like, oh damn, there's a venue down my road called Pie House Co-op, and it used to be a squat, and now it's a co-op.
Ingrown played last night. I was too zonked to go, but Ingrown played last night, and I'm sure it was an amazing show.
You seem like a very well informed person. You know what I mean? When I watch you speak on like in interviews and like on the record, the lyrics are very well, educated, informed. Do you put that on yourself at some point in your life? You're like, I'm going to take it upon myself to learn something, which actually kind of sounds quite like obvious saying it out loud. But have you gone through those periods where like, I need to inform myself here?
I think I just feel strongly. And couldn't read for a long time. I was in special ed. Like my whole schooling was like remedial. My whole schooling. So I think when I like started reading well, I was like, oh, I'm gonna fucking read this shit. And
You're in.
I think like because of that, and like because I was like special ed for so long, it makes me I'm like, I don't know. I don't think like it's like a specific impetus, but it's like I think I've always known about the city and what's going on. You know what I mean? I guess, and you know, you could give that to my dad too. Is like I've always been aware of what's happening locally in my city. And then, you know, I guess like really from touring, it's like opened up my life really in that like I'm seeing all these new places. I'm meeting folks who like who have roots in completely other worlds than I do, you know. And that really like opens up your reality. And who is it? I think it was like Angela Davis, who is like, if you are only concerned with American politics as an American, you're missing the scope, you know. So always trying to be informed, especially outside of American politics as well. You know what I mean? And like the fucking sound canceling 24-hour news loop that will get you nowhere.
There's a lot going on, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of news just happening worldwide all the time, whether it's Palestine, Gaza, or whether it's Sudan, or, you know, how do you kind of approach that stuff in order to not get overwhelmed by it, or like not get so bombarded with it that you feel like you can't do anything? Or, you know, do you have any thoughts on that? Because it can be information overload, right? And we're only human.
I think the way that I kind of like circumvent those sorts of feelings is by talking to individuals. I have a friend, George, who lives in Jenin. You know, I have another friend, Tariq, who lives in Ramallah. You know, so I speak to them, and I'm like, "Yo, what's going on? How are you doing? Mm-hmm. How's your family doing? You know what I mean? Like, how do you feel? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?" Talking to people who are living in those areas is the best way to inform yourself about how people actually are doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, you know, God bless the BBC and Al Jazeera English and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's not, you know, the connections that you make as a human being will always be the strongest realm of like information. Yeah. You know what I mean? What you can glean from your friends, what they can share with you. Yeah. You know what I mean? To listen to another spirit.
It's very powerful, isn't it, when someone like tells you the way they're living and like what they're doing on a Tuesday morning. You know what I mean? You get to find out a lot about people. The World Cup is obviously happening in the States right now. I was watching Iraq, watching Iran. It's kind of a cognitive dissonance, isn't it, when you're watching those teams play in the States with this, you know, the global stage of the World Cup, and then reading about what's happening for them back home.
I think also something that's really important is that war is not football. Like, war is not like a match that will be won in 90 minutes. Yeah. You know, like it's not, there's not two sides and there's not a team to cheer for. At the end of the day, I cheer for no state. You know, when like the BLM movement and the Stop Mass Incarceration movement was happening in New York, the Chinese government like condemned the American government for its white supremacy, which is nice, cool, great. But people being like, go China. It's like, no, dude, like we're not praising any state over here. You know what I mean? It's fuck a state. We're not going to find liberation through the state, you know? So I think treating war like a football game is sad. And I see a lot of that, of people like rooting for a team that is at war. And that seems very odd and dark.
I think it's important that everything is challenged. You know, you challenge yourself, you challenge your friends, which is hard to do. Challenge your friends and family, challenge your own government, even if it is a party that you voted for. I think it's important to challenge things, challenge everything. I mean, it's the Joe Strummer thing, isn't it? Like question everything. But I think that ultimately has a positive direction.
It's a very Jewish thing to say.
Is it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. You know what I mean? To ask questions is like, we call it like that's a mitzvah to challenge something, to ask questions, to wrestle with yourself, to struggle with yourself, to wrestle with God.
Yeah.
This is all part of it.
And then at some point you want to draw the line and just be like, well, actually, I'm just going to enjoy my company. Just going to enjoy silence.
No, we don't do that. That's very un-Jewish.
This, like I said, love this record.
Thank you.
It feels like you're excited about it. Alone Together. It feels like you've got like a fresh energy. Is there something in that? Is there some truth in that?
Yes.
One answer, straight answer. Yeah.
I mean,
what is it? I mean, I went to the skate park listening to it and I was like, fucking yeah, I'm so excited to skate. And I got there and I fucking took a hard slam immediately. I'm like, I'm still stoked. But you know, it's very easy to get on board with. Like, it's very easy to mosh to. I could like imagine dancing immediately to it, you know?
Hell yeah.
For half an hour straight.
Yeah, thank you. We make music to dance to. We like dancing.
Yeah. Dance in the USA.
Yeah. I think what makes this record different was my direct confrontation with death and new life. I lost one of my closest mentors to me like 3 years ago. Mike Down of Amenity, Force Down, Inside Out. And he passed away right when I started writing this record. And then at the same time, I had my first child. So it was like this wild influx of pain and also like intense love and feeling of like almost like a refocusing on direction of life. You know what I mean? Where, I mean, if you were to ask me like 4 years ago, are you going to have a kid? I'd be like, dude, I don't fucking know. Like when he asked me that before, you know? But now that it has happened, it's completely like reoriented how I look at life, how I look at the world. You know what I mean? And not that I'm any less apocalyptic about our future, but that I think I usually didn't really concern myself with thinking about the future. It was more like day to day, you know? And now I'm very aware of the future, that it is coming regardless of if I want it to or not. And my daughter will experience it. So I'm committed to dealing with it.
And what does that mean? Does that mean like protecting yourself and your child and your family?
Absolutely. Protecting myself, treating myself with respect and discipline, and teaching her to respect herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How to attempt to live free. You know what I mean? To enjoy life, to have love. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like that takes a lot of humility, takes a lot of vulnerability to start going in that direction. Do you know what I mean?
It's terrifying. It's very terrifying. Yeah. Also, it's terrifying because like my daughter is gorgeous like her mother and deranged like me. So the world is hell to pay when she comes around.
How can you I feel like this is maybe like a bit of like an adult's question or whatever, but it's I think it's important. It's like, how do you sustain yourself, like as an individual, as an artist, you know, to be there for your family and your friends? Like, what does that look like for you? I mean, I'll tell you what it looked like for me. It's like living in an area that I like, having a home where I want to hang out in, so I don't want to always run away, which I did for a long time. Like having a partner I love, having a cat that I love, you know, having the coffee shop where I know the people there and they're playing good tunes and introducing me to new music. Like those are a few things that like really genuinely like make my life sustainable. What are things for you that make it something to look forward to?
I live in my neighborhood. My neighborhood has no school, so the city put like 4 homeless shelters in my neighborhood, so nobody comes to my neighborhood. So if like somebody with a skateboard comes to my neighbor's like, what are you doing here?
You can hear it.
It's very old school, very old school neighborhood. Yeah. But I really like it. It's unchanged. So living there is nice. Out the riffraff. Yeah. Some riffraff, but a specific kind, you know?
What kind?
I mean, you know, when there's beef, it's really just between folks in the shelter, you know what I mean? Yeah. And, you know, but they don't bother nobody, you know? Yeah.
Is that nice having that visibility? We've got a few, like, I guess I'd call them like halfway houses in the area, and like the visibility is important to me. You know, I like chatting with people, whether at the pub or maybe they're sitting on the street.
Absolutely. I mean, we're friendly with everybody. My daughter plays with the kids in the shelter. You know what I mean? Show everybody respect. And we never had our shit taken out of our car. we never had our catalytic converter stolen. You know what I mean? Show everybody respect. Sometimes people shoot dope on my block. You know what I mean? Always, or like getting drunk outside and be like, yo, you can sit on my stoop. Just make sure that you clean up after yourself and everything's fine. You know what I mean? As long as you're good. But it is sad. Like people like OD in my neighborhood and then beg people who woke them up like not to call the ambulance because like get evicted from the shelter. You know what I mean? So it's not, there's nothing hunky dory about it. You know what I mean? But what I mean to say is like my neighborhood is like out the mix. You know what I mean? It's not like Williamsburg. It's not like Soho. Nothing like that. It's not like the Lower East Side even. You know what I mean?
There's no Patagonia there.
No sir. No North There's Face. One bar. There's 3 delis and 1 bar.
Yeah, I bet the delis are good though.
Yeah, they're pretty. One of the delis, we don't eat food in that deli. We buy beers from that deli. You know what I mean? But then on the other side of the block, there's a good deli to eat. Yeah. It's like an old school neighborhood, and I really like that. And also, being around my daughter, is really important to me. You know what I mean? Time spent with family is the best time you can spend. You know, I think that goes for anybody. You know what I mean? And then besides that, writing music. I live above my studio, so I write music constantly, and I ride my motorcycle, and I like to break it and then try to fix it and break it again. You
taught yourself to self-produce? You taught yourself to produce and like make music on a computer?
Yeah.
All that stuff's like you're autodidactic with that stuff?
Yeah. And Harlan teaches me a lot too. Harlan, the bass player in the band, is like much more of a technical gentleman than I am. I really like play drums hard, banjo hard, good. You know what I mean? Like I'm much more remedial and caveman about the music making, but he's taught me so much about like, producing and stuff like that.
Who taught you to learn banjo?
My cousin went to college and brought it back and was like, yo, this is like less strings than a guitar. And I was like, sick, dude.
And because they are hard to play, and like your
not
fingers
how I do it.
Hey, good to chat, Julian. I got one more question, which is, I think we learn the most from our mistakes. Like whether it's like a decade-long mistake or whether it's like a sort of a short, sharp fuck up. And I don't want to drag up bad memories or anything like that. But what have been some like important moments of your life where you're like, fuck, okay, I'm a different person after that?
I mean, I think the mistake that I've made in the past that has really most impacted my life is leading the crew or the band or leading whoever I'm around with hate and fear, where the only way to move forward is with love. And that's something I learned time and time again, but I have 100% made that mistake before, leading folks not with love but with hate and fear, and I'm committed to never doing that again and embracing the ancient discipline of love. Yeah,
love it. And like financially, I mean, it's a big question, but I mean, New York's obviously an expensive city. It's kind of in London, it's kind of the thing that the more the kind of cheaper you can live. Is that the way you kind of got by sort of living in the cracks a bit? And
definitely, sir. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we have like a practice space. So like my home and the band are all tied up financially together. You know what I mean? And the crew is all tied up together. And when I'm home, I work a job. You know what I mean? Like I would love to not have to, but at least right now, music can't feed my daughter alone.
Bar work.
Sorry?
Bar work, like what kind of?
No, I'm a rigger.
Okay.
So working a harness, rigging up banners, hoisting 100-foot banners.
Got the stage production down.
The stage types of some of the guys I work with also are a part of the stagehand union.
Yeah. That's a whole industry, right?
Oh yeah. And it's a good union too. It's a good union. Shout out the stagehand union. I'm not part of the union. But the job that I have, the guy who runs the rig job, he like started this job, and he's an old school punk rocker from the Netherlands. So anytime I'm on tour, he's like, yo, how's it going, man? How's it going? And
good to be around those people.
Oh, he's wonderful. And I always, I always let him know when I'll be home, and he's always like, I got work set up for you. Don't worry about it. And so, anybody who wants to do this, who wants to travel or make music or even make arts, make sure that you share with your boss and make sure you got a cool boss.
Yeah.
And if you do, you know what I mean?
Said and done.
Yeah, dead ass. I mean, I found this job because my homie used to date his daughter. So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's
family link.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's everybody's like, one or two hairs removed.
Yeah, you got to ask around, don't you? I appreciate you. Thanks, Julian. Thank you for the chat.
Dude, thank you, baby. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
So that was Julian from Show Me the Body. Their new record, Alone Together, is out on the 10th of July. This is their best record, I'm pretty sure. I think they've kind of been all over the place sonically over the years. This is like their most like through and through mosh, fun but serious, you know what I mean, hardcore record. Yeah, big into it. Thanks for being here for 101 Part-Time Jobs. We've had loads of great guests recently like Stuart Lee and Sublime, Pierce, and as always we've got loads of episodes coming up. We've got Miniskirt, Get Down Services, Freddie Meredith and Loren. So all good stuff coming up that you may or may not have heard of before, but all well worth checking out. To get them, click subscribe. Cheers.